It's a rough life. Living up to Lassie, it's a rough life. Trying to be so classy when I'm going through the garbage for a midday snack. Knowing I'm in trouble when the folks get back. It's a rough life. When fleas live on your belly, it's a rough life. When people call you smelly, I'm developing a complex. I might need a shrink. They blame me every time that something starts to stink. It's a rough life. Begging for a cookie is a rough life. Never getting nookie. They chase me from the kitchen when I start to beg. They think that I'm perverted when I hug their leg.
Welcome to the show. My name is Jesse Goldberg, and my very special guest today is Randi Michaels Block.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And I'm not going to make you go through that story about how you got to be Randi Michaels Block. Let's get right to it.
Okay.
And you're from where?
I'm from East Meadow, Long Island.
And I'm from Syosset, Long Island.
That's amazing.
So what street? No. Do you still have anybody there?
No, I don't. I don't have any.
So you tell me what street you grew up on.
Spruce Lane.
Spruce Lane?
You don't know.
I
where
went to
that
garage sales on Spruce Lane all the time.
You did not.
I did too. It's like near Levittown somewhere.
It is right. It's East Meadow is very very close to Levittown.
I know where Spruce Lane is.
Yeah, and I
know
know
somebody
where-
who lives right there.
Really?
Yeah. Do you know where Southwest Bay Road is? In Syosset?
No.
No?
No, but a very famous person lived on Spruce Lane.
Who?
Do you remember the
Who?
remember the guy Joel Rifkin who murdered a bunch of
Oh, yeah.
prostitutes?
He was from Spruce
He
Lane?
went to school with me.
Really?
He was like one of those kids that used to get picked on all the time
Oh my
in
God.
school. And I remember I was in New York and I was, watching the news, and there's this big story about Joel Rifkin who was arrested, and they found the bodies in his backyard. And they
On
lived like
Spruce Lane?
6 houses down from me.
On Spruce Lane?
Yes. Oh, that was really awful.
Let's get to your songwriting career.
Okay.
You started songwriting when?
I started writing songs when I was about 12.
And why?
Well, I was in love with Carole King and Joni Mitchell and Jackson Browne, and I used to write poetry as a kid, and I just started rewriting Tapestry.
Let's get to your career. I mean, that's why you're here, because you wrote a musical called Guess Who's Coming to Theater, which
Yes.
I saw, which was very good.
Thank you.
And I told you I went to see it because I wanted to look at the venue, and I said, wow, this is a good musical.
Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was good. I was sitting in the third row, I think.
Great.
I sat right behind the reserve seats.
Oh.
I wasn't one of those important people.
Yeah. Well, if I had known you were coming, I would have put you right up front.
I had a good
First
seat.
row. Third row is great.
All right, so you started out with another musical.
Yes.
And you were telling me about this off camera.
Yes.
And that was called something about songwriting.
Secrets of Songwriting.
And how did that come about?
Well, it's semi-autobiographical fiction, and it's basically my story of moving from New York City to Nashville to pursue songwriting. And I moved here in 1992, and I met all these great women who were all songwriters and singers and trying to do the same thing I was. So I thought, wow, this would make a great musical. But I had never written a musical. I had never written a comedy song. I didn't know how to write a comedy song, although I loved musicals and I was raised with all of these.
Raised on Cabaret, My Fair Lady, Annie,
I mean,
Guys
I
and
knew
Dolls.
every word to every
Your
song.
parents liked this stuff?
Oh, we went to Broadway all the time.
Really? Do you remember your first experience going to Broadway?
My very first one,
It must
no.
have been in the movies, though. Your first experience with musical must have been a movie musical.
No, I don't know. I honestly,
Sound of Music or something
I don't
like
remember,
that?
but I mean, I saw Funny Girl and Gypsy and Sound of Music. I remember seeing Ethel Merman in Hello, Dolly.
Really?
And I used to sing their songs from the show all the way home in the car. My older brother hated that, but they would just get stuck in my head, even as a little girl. But I started writing pop and my own songs when I was a teenager. And anyway, so I met this playwright here in Nashville 13 years after I had this idea for Secrets of Songwriting in 2006.
Right.
And we started working on it together. And next thing I knew, it was done at the Eugene O'Neill Theater Center in 2008. And then again, it was workshopped up there in 2009. And then it was produced in a staged reading, 3 staged readings in New York, also in 2009. So it was just boom, boom, boom. And I learned on the fast track. So
Were you mainly doing lyrics, music? What were you doing?
all of it.
But well, I mean, there was another writer. What
There was
he
another
doing?
writer.
Just writing together.
We were co-writing the lyrics. I wrote all the music, and we were co-writing the book.
Okay. Do you find that writing a book is harder than?
It's
What do you find?
writing the book is challenging. In Guess Who's Coming to Seder, the way that came together, that was actually a true story. I had a Passover dinner at my house
With all
3
those
years
people
ago.
who weren't Jewish?
With all those people who weren't Jewish. And they were all Nashville songwriters. And after 20 bottles of wine, it became pretty irreverent and silly and creative. And 4 hours later, one of them said, "Oh, Randi, this is your next musical." And I thought, no way. You know, my parents would... both my parents are deceased, and most of my ancestors are deceased, and I just thought, well, if I write this crazy...
Well, just like in the musical.
in the musical, right.
So you based that character, the main character, on you?
A lot, yeah.
Right.
The characters in the show were all based loosely on the people who were at the dinner, but very loosely.
Well, the actress was great. The one who played you was great. I don't know who she was, but she was great.
Yeah, she had just moved to town a week before we started auditions.
Really?
And the one who played Kelly Rock, Charlene Carter, brought her to the audition. And she sang, and I was like, oh, love you.
Yeah, she was great.
Love you.
And also Larry White was in it, and she was great too.
Laurie White, yeah.
That's how you say it, Laurie White?
It's Laurie.
Laurie,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She sang the
she's
big song Connecticut,
Connecticut.
which was to me the showstopper in the
Oh,
song.
totally. Always is, whenever we do it. When we did it as a staged reading.
Where'd you get the idea for that song? I mean, how'd you do that? How'd you write that song?
Honestly, it fell out of me. The whole show basically fell out of me. What happened was...
But where was the first time you said Connecticut?
Three
with the
C's,
three-
two
yeah,
N's, two T's, so
right.
closely knit,
Right.
with lovely vowels and quadruplicate. I'm telling you, Jesse, it was like a divine... You know how sometimes you write a
When was
song-
that defined? When did you first think?
It was
Were you
like...
sleeping? Or were you dreaming?
I
or
was
what?
on the couch. The first song I wrote for that show was Chopped Liver with Gefilte Fish. And I was sitting on the couch and the TV was on, and I was just, I don't know, it's just, that whole song fell out of me. And then after that, I wrote As I Am, Sarah's big number at the end of the show.
Right.
And then I started thinking about the characters. The characters started forming. I didn't really have any of the book yet. And I started thinking about these characters.
So how many songs did you have before you wrote any of the book?
Well, you know that I was a finalist for the Fred Ebb Award. Do you know
Fred
about
Ebb,
that?
the New York,
Yeah.
Fred Ebb?
Fred Kander and Ebb?
Yeah.
Yeah. So...
Cabaret. Fred
yeah,
Ebb.
Cabaret.
Oh, I didn't know.
Oh.
I didn't know there was a Fred Ebb Award.
Oh, yeah. They give it once a year. It's a $50,000 award that they give to one composer lyricist in the world for promising work
For musicals?
for musicals.
Really?
You should apply.
Really?
It happens once a year.
When is it? Fred Ebb Award?
Fred Ebb Award.
He's
Just
still
Google
alive?
it. No, it's
Really? He
no,
died?
Yeah.
I
so-
saw them live, you know.
You did?
Fred Ebb and
Kander
John.
and
Yeah,
Ebb?
they sang
John
New York,
Kander?
New York. I was at the Songwriters Guild thing in the mid '80s. Had
Yeah.
all these great old songwriters, and there were two of them that were doing it.
Amazing. They were amazing. So, so what happened? Okay, we're
Back to
kind of
that.
jumping around a little bit. So, they all back to the Seder. They said this should be your next musical, but everything with Secrets of Songwriting was kind of in flux, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do next. Didn't even know if I wanted to continue writing musicals at that point. Well, a couple of months went by, and I knew that this award was coming up because I wanted to submit Secrets of Songwriting. Well, I couldn't submit it because my co-writer was submitting something else, and he couldn't submit two things. So I thought,
Did he win?
no,
Okay.
and he wasn't nominated either.
Oh, okay.
So I thought, I'm going to write my own musical. So I started thinking about the dinner, and I
Right.
started thinking, I'm going to write this show called Passover, the musical.
Right.
And I
There's
thought,
there's too many things that say something the musical.
right, but that was the title at the time.
Right.
So I wrote to do this submit for the Fred Ebb Award. It's really very simple. You need 4 songs recorded, an outline of the entire show, and the character descriptions. So I think that I think the due date was like June 29th or something. You still have time, if they still have it the
50
same
grand.
way.
All right.
Yeah. So it was like May 1st, and I thought, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm just going to do this. This is nuts, but I'm going to do it. So I didn't leave my house for a month, and I wrote, and I came up with the characters, and I wrote Connecticut, Chopped Liver with Gefilte Fish, As I Am, and I think The Prayer.
I like that prayer.
That 9-part
I know exactly what you're talking about.
a cappella piece.
There are all the characters behind
Right.
the fences or whatever they're behind. You
Yeah.
know.
And they all come forward with their personal moment.
Reminded me of Fiddler on the Roof a little bit with the
Prayer did?
of the beginning part. Not it's a tradition or mine. Kind of like a combination of tradition and Sabbath prayer.
Yeah, like Sabbath, but it's the song where they all come forward.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's a
right.
9-part chant underneath.
Yeah, it was really good. I mean, you wrote all that music
Yes,
together, and
yes.
you figured out how it all
I
would
did
go
it all
together.
on GarageBand. I just started
Really?
singing. I had so many tracks.
How many parts were in that?
Well, there's the English and the Hebrew that continues.
No,
the
how
whole
many
time.
musical parts were there?
What do you mean, musical parts?
Counterpoint parts. How many different?
Well, there's that, the Hebrew and the English translation go the entire time. And one at a time, they have to come, the women are doing the Hebrew, the men are doing the English, and one at a time, the actors have to come out of the chant, sing their part, and step back in and find their way back into the chant. And
Right.
then, so that's all going on at the same time. So there's 9 solos counterpointing the 2 chants
Right.
that are going completely.
It was really good. It was
Thank
really
you.
good.
Thank you. So I submitted these 4 songs and the character descriptions, and I had a loose outline of where I thought I wanted the show to go. And I thought, okay, I'm going to send it in. This will never, ever happen. October 5th, 2010, phone rings. Hello, is this Randy Michaels Block? I'm like, yes. This is, I forget his
The
name.
Ghost of Fred Ebb.
The trustee for the Fred Ebb Foundation. I'm calling to let you know you're one of 8 finalists for the award.
Oh, did
And
you have a
almost
dinner
dropped
and all
the
that kind of
phone.
stuff?
I almost dropped it. I was
Did
like,
you have a dinner and all that kind of
I
stuff?
flew to New York, and they had a big award ceremony, and John Kander was there, and I met Sheldon Harnick, who wrote Fiddler on the Roof.
I met him. Yeah, I know.
He was one of the judges that nominated me.
Oh,
Oh, I
that's
know.
good.
And I got to meet him, and he was so cute. He was so cute, and he said, I really, really love your music. And he said, but I got to tell you, he says, I don't think the title's as funny as you think it is. I went, okay, I'll change it.
so pass over the musical. It got changed to Guess Who's Coming to Seder.
Right.
Right. Okay.
So that was my first green light. And I thought, all right, well, if I got nominated, I guess
Maybe it's pretty good.
maybe there's something here. And right after that, I met Ted Swinley, who is
Right.
the writer and creator
Right.
of Always Patsy Cline. And he asked, we just started talking, and he said, let me read what you have. And that was in November of 2010. And we started having lunch and talking about things, and he said, you know what? I want to direct this. Would you consider having me direct it? And I said, are you kidding? Of course. So he said, great, I want to put up a stage reading at the Dark Horse Theater in August. Finish it.
So you did a stage reading, but then you directed this thing, didn't you?
Yes, we did 2 stage readings at the Dark Horse. Then he was instrumental in helping me get it off Broadway, and we brought it to New York, and we did a staged reading at the York Theater in last March.
Right. That's the one I saw on YouTube. Right.
No, that was the Dark Horse.
Oh, sorry.
Yep.
Okay.
I wasn't allowed to film that because it was equity in New York.
Okay.
So we did it in New York, and then we got a 2-week run in Tulsa, a full production. So he directed all of those. I got the offer from the JCC just a few months ago to have these dates at the end of March, and Ted is in the process of bringing Always Patsy Cline to Broadway. So he's been in New York, and I said,
so
well,
that's why you
who's
did it.
going to direct it? And he said, you.
Well, how'd you do it? How was directing?
It was hard. I also co-produced it. So what I will tell you is there is a reason why people don't write, direct, and produce their own musicals. It's a lot of work.
Right.
It's crazy. But I enjoyed it a lot because I got to really get behind the scenes in a way and see, what the actors see and what the actors feel, and be able to talk to them on a different level.
Did you ever want to be in it?
No.
Not at all?
No. I was in Secrets of Songwriting when we first did it at the Eugene O'Neill, the very first year.
Well, it's really good, and you got this poster here. Maybe we can get a copy of it here. I think maybe we can get this. Guess who's coming? This is when it was at the JCC. It was, you had a lot of people there. It was an excellent show.
We did. We really had a lot of...
Are you writing any more?
Yes, I've got another show that I'm working on now as well.
Really? So is it coming easier than the other one?
Well, I haven't really given it my full attention yet because I'm still messing around with Seder a little bit. The rewrites with musical theater, you're always rewriting, always rewriting. So every time I see it up, this was the 4th time I've seen it up, I have new ideas. So I'm still working on that, but the other one, the new one, is percolating, and I've got a few lyrics written, and I've got some character study written.
You writing this by yourself?
Yes.
So you like writing by yourself?
I do. I like, I've co-written songs in Nashville for 20 years. I had 2 publishing deals, I've had some cuts, and I love co-writing songs, I do. But the conceptual part of musical, I know that when I was doing Secrets of Songwriting, it was sometimes difficult to sort of, it just took longer. I think when I'm writing by myself, I can get the ideas out and just have somebody else, maybe someone like Ted Swinley or whoever's going to be next in my life, a producer, director, sort of be my
Isn't it funny that how most Broadway things
feedback.
are like 2 people,
At least.
I mean, lyrics and music, it's usually
And
divided up.
And book. There's generally 3 people.
But they divide it up somehow, and
Yes.
then, but guys like Jerry Herman, I think, he's one of those guys who writes it all by himself, or Meredith Wilson, or...
Yeah, it is just like a small
What's that
handful.
guys and dolls
Rupert
game?
Holmes.
Frank Lesser.
Rupert Holmes.
I'm talking about the old guys,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. Well, they, a lot of them.
But like his Sheldon Harnick, that was he wrote it with Jerry Bach.
Jerry Bach, yeah.
Yeah.
Jerry Bach wrote the music, but the book was, oh my gosh, her name flew out of my head.
It's probably on that record. You know the.
That was 3 though on Fiddler.
My grandmother lived in New York all her life, except for when she came from Russia, you know. And when I talked to Sheldon Harnick, I mean, I said, my grandmother lived in New York all her life, and the only show she ever saw was your show, Fiddler on the Roof. So all over her apartment in the Bronx, she had little Fiddler on the Roof things, because that was the only show she ever saw.
Well, do you remember?
That was her story.
The reference in Seder to Fiddler on the Roof. You remember?
Yeah,
that?
what was that again?
When they're doing the candle lighting prayer, the candle lighting, and they're lighting the candles, and one of the I think the stripper says, "I feel like I'm in Fiddler on the Roof."
Oh, I don't remember. I should remember. But
well,
I only saw it once,
Yeah, you need to see
I only saw it once.
Yeah.
But it was really good, and the production values are really good.
Thank you. Thank you. Working so closely with Ted in Nashville and New York and Tulsa, I was side by side with him the whole time. I mean, I never missed a rehearsal. He and I had pre-production meetings about everything, and he always listened to my ideas. He was so great for me because not only did he mentor me and guide me, but he listened to me. He just didn't say, okay, this is my direction, and go away. So when I got to do this at the JCC, my vision of it was really strong.
Right.
So it was really great to be able to do that again, and I would love to do it again. I would love to have another chance to direct, but I wouldn't want to direct and produce at the same time.
Oh, you never know.
I would want to do one or the other. I like producing too. I love producing.
What's your definition of producing as far as play?
Well, I used to produce Tin Pan South. That's when I was at NSAI, and I did 3 years of producing and booking Tin Pan South. Producing is
as far as Broadway goes, as far as shows go.
It's similar to producing shows in the sense that you hire the people, you arrange, you do the budgeting, you do all the, get all the scheduling and the marketing and all that stuff.
You also have the final say as to what goes on the stage.
Well, I think the director and, in my perfect world, the director, producer, and writer, who, you know, I obviously.
We're all of them.
We're all of them. But I don't, like I said, I wouldn't want to do that again. You know, I did have a co-producer on this, and it was great to bounce ideas off of, and you know, I listened to my cast. I think that's really important to listen.
So are you really
to what other people have to say?
Are you really like writing this kind of music?
I love it. I'm having so much fun.
You know what? I like it because you get to write about things that it could be anything.
Yeah.
This is my theory. It says that there are so many songs about love, right? There's so many. And there's so many books and movies and everything else about other things.
Right.
Why not songs about everything?
But in musical theater, you can write anything.
And not only that,
anything.
You can go from one melody to another melody and skip songs and skip this part and bring back another song.
And use words that you would never use. You would never get to use, you know, quadruplicate in a country song.
Right. Anyway, we're about out of time. So anyway, the show is called Guess Who's Coming to Seder, and if it comes to your house, to your town, anywhere, somewhere, go see it. This is Randy Michael Flock, and we're back next week with another.
Yeah, and those sweet nuns will be throwing erasers at your head right now, blaming your entire life on original sin.
What exactly is original sin anyway?
It means that we're all born sinners, so we baptize our babies because even at birth we're not fit to be with God.
I always wondered why you people like drowning your children.
It's like Sarah and I have been standing on a platform waiting on a train, only I'm finally realizing she's been waiting on a completely different one. She doesn't get it. She doesn't get that life is passing us by. I never said it, but I wonder if we still see eye to eye, or will we say goodbye? If I were a Goldberg, would we have a child by now? If I were a Bernstein, would she accept my vow to give her my heart for the rest of her life, give her my money and make her my wife, and offer up my family jewels to Rabbi's night?
I can tell you that I've never been to Nordstrom's. It's on the list of stores I call mine stay away from. I refuse to go to Saks. I can't focus or relax with that hyper music in my eardrums.
What is this feeling I'm feeling? Perhaps I've had way too much wine. This evening has been so revealing. Did God finally give me a sign? Connecticut, 3 C's, 2 N's, 2 T's, so closely knit, with lovely vowels in quadruplet. It makes you feel so dignified. Why don't you roll a joint and take it over to Manhattan and be done with it? Let's face it, Jersey's not that far. Passover is all about freedom. Let's take a minute and think about our own versions of bondage.
Bondage? Well, hey, now we're getting somewhere.
And how we enslave ourselves in our lives.
Oh,